Okay, so this video follows on from several previous videos in terms of working out how we can work with Codespaces and also GitHub. So I've previously created a Codespace, which I'll go into. So I'm in GitHub at the moment, go into Codespaces, and down here I'll find the Codespace container that I've been working with. I will choose to open that in a browser, which will activate the container and put us into the repository. Sorry, put us into the into the coding area or Visual Studio Code within that container. So we'll give that a moment to start up, and at this particular stage, it looks like it's doing okay, so I can just test that code's all correct. I'll just run that code. Everything's getting started, so it takes a moment. It's normally very, very quick, but there we are. It's run that code, and that's all working successfully. Now, I have previously talked about how that this particular code is connected to a GitHub repository. So it's not just, there is a Codespace container which contains this Visual Studio Code and also the code files within it. So I'll just add, for example, an additional line just to show that everything's working okay as I left it last time. So I've got another line there. Again, I can commit this change. I'll say yes to that. I'm quite certain there's better ways to do it than what I'm showing you, but essentially I've sort of got this to work and it's okay. Now, normally I'd put a more sophisticated commit message, but I'll just do that at this stage. And again, that's committed it to the Git repository within the actual container, but I want to sync it to GitHub itself, and this will do that. And then if I go now into GitHub and I have a look at that particular GitHub repository, I can see that if I go into the code that it has all the lines and it's all up to date. So let me just come back into the container. What I want to be able to do is something that we would normally do in Python or typically do in Python where something gets sophisticated and where I need to add some packages or libraries. I want to actually build a virtual environment, typically a Vend environment for that Python application. And so far that hasn't been built. So in some ways this is not necessarily essential, but it's good to know how to work with virtual environments and also with GitHub, and I guess also with Codespaces as well. So now there's a few ways to go and do this. Again, there's probably a stack of ways to do this, and I'm just going to try and see if I can show one that works. So I think what I want to do, I think if I type in environment, something along these lines, it should give me the option to create a Python environment. Now, this is something I could possibly do or could definitely do through a terminal. And by the way, I can see I've got a couple of terminals open here, which just got opened as a matter of process here. So let me just go back into that. I managed to get rid of that. If I go into the command palette, which again, I could use Control-Shift-P and get into it. I'm just trying to go down the route that's the simplest for people who are not experienced with this. So, and now it gives me a couple of options. Now, normally I would create the Vend option, so I'll go for that, and this should create a virtual environment. It asks me to choose the Python that I want, and I'm going to go for, again, I'm not quite sure, these all seem to be the same as far as I can work out. So I'll just go for the first one, and then this will create the virtual environment for my Python project. Now, if I go into the Explorer, hopefully I can see we've now got a Vend folder, which is typical of a Python project. Okay, so I just paused the video there because I wasn't quite sure how to deal with the next step. So effectively, what I've done we have created a virtual environment. This vend or .vend folder has been created with all this various environment stuff in here. Now, the issue is that at this particular stage, that if I was to commit this change, it actually wants to save all of the virtual environment to the Git repository, which is normally not something that we would do. We would want that to be excluded or not included in the Git repository. It is part of the environment here within the Codespace, but we don't necessarily want that in the Git repository. So normally what we'd do, well, actually, I'm not 100% sure how we'd always handle this, but in this case, what I've done is created a gitignore or .gitignore file. So I just went up here and just typed in .git, if I can spell it right, git ignore, and I'm going to escape out of that hopefully, because I have just created that while I had the video stop or pause for a moment. And then what I want to do is just to make sure that it ignores everything in the .vend folder in terms of when it goes to commit things to the Git repository. So I can do this, I believe, by just adding a single line in here, which is a slash or a forward slash with venv in here. And when I do that, then I think, or it did before, this has already darkened these out. I believe at this stage, I think I just need the one line there. I can close that. That's doing its job. That is, if I was to go into here and see the changes, the only change here is that I have a gitignore line, which I think I don't even really want this as part of the repository, but I think, can I untrack it? This is my lack of skill with Git. I actually don't want it to be part of the repository. It does say it's untracked, and can I remove it from here? I'm not quite sure, so I'll just leave that for now. Again, there's things I'm not overly familiar with Git, so I'll just let that go for now. Discard changes. I don't think that's what I want. Are you sure you want to delete gitignore? This is a reverse one. I don't think I want to do that. So I'll just leave that as is. And if when I go to commit, that commits. Not sure what I'm up to, about the third, I think, commit. And I'll sync the changes. Okay, so that is added in. Let's have a look. Let's go to the repository. And we can see we now have the gitignore file there, which I didn't really want, but it's not much stuff in there, or not much data in there, just that one line. So that's not a big concern. So just so we understand how that's all working, this is where I find Visual Studio Code a little bit confusing, because I think it automatically activated the virtual environment. So normally when the virtual environment is activated, there'll be this little in brackets in front of the command prompt that gives the virtual environment. I think, however, if I go into one of the other terminals, Bash, I can see that this has it. So suggests that the virtual environment is actually activated in this Codespace. Like I said, this is one of the more confusing aspects of dealing with Python, handling and understanding the virtual environments. This is the Python prompt, still isn't, but if I close this, discard this one, and then go in and open a new, well, I think if I just run it, it will open a new terminal, Python terminal. We will see that, in fact, the program is run, but we can also see that we are actually in the virtual environment. So we can confirm this. We could add an additional library or package, and a simple one to add is NumPy or NumPy, however you pronounce it. So we could use something like pip install NumPy. So let me just copy that, and hopefully I can paste that across here. Allow, perhaps that's what I want. So this will install the package into the virtual environment. And perhaps before I run that line of code, I'll just go over to the virtual environment, and I will have a look under the library, and I will see there's no NumPy there at this stage. I'll go back in here, I'll run this, and what we should see occur is NumPy get installed, and we can now see that NumPy is within the virtual environment. It's added the packages. The other way I can confirm or get an idea that that's been installed, I can go pip freeze. This just displays the packages that have been installed, and I can see NumPy or NumPy has been installed, and so I can check that that's actually been or activated, or that is actually working. There's a couple of lines of code that I would use to run NumPy. And just as an example, I can run this code down here. Just copy that code, and so this should now work. I'm not sure why it's underlining it, because I think it's, anyway, that doesn't really matter. I'm sure that's right. I'm pretty confident that's right. And we can see here when this code is run that, in fact, NumPy has run and it's all worked. So we could now just continue to commit our changes. Commit that, and we'll sync the changes. Okay. And then we can see up here, if I refresh that in our GitHub repository, I can see that if I go into here, I can see that those lines of code are all up to date. So we'll leave that video there. That's it. Thank you.